Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Jayo Giri Varadhari Jayo Giri Varadhari Jana Vallabha Shodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Shodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jayo Radha Madhava Jayo Kunja Bihari Jayo Radha Madhava Jai Kunja Bihari Jayo Gopi Jana Vallabha Jayo Giri Varadhari Jayo Giri Varadhari Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Jayo Giri Varadhari Jayo Giri Varadhari Shodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Shodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jayo Radha Madhava Jai Kunja Bihari Jayo Radha Madhava Jai Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Radha Madhava ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. This morning we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 5, Sloka 33. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Tadā saṁhatya cānyonyaṁ bhagavat-chakti-coditāḥ sad-asattvam upādāya cobhayaṁ sasṛjur tadā saṁhatya cānyonyaṁ bhagavat-chakti-coditāḥ sad-asattvam upādāya cobhayaṁ sasṛjur adaḥ. Please chant. Mataji? Word by word. Tadā, all those. Saṁhatya, being assembled. Cha, also. Anyonyam, one another. Bhagavat, by the personality of Godhead. Śakti, energy. Coditāḥ, being applied. Sat-asattvam, primarily and secondarily. Upādāya, accepting. Cha, also. Ubhayam, both. Sasṛjuḥ, came into existence. He, certainly. Adaḥ, this universe. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Thus, when all these became assembled by force of the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, this universe certainly came into being by accepting both the primary and secondary causes of creation. Purport. In this verse, it is clearly mentioned that the Supreme Personality of Godhead exerts His different energies in the creation. It is not that He Himself is transformed into material creations. He expands Himself by His different energies as well as by his plenary portions. In a corner of the spiritual sky of brahmajyoti, a spiritual cloud sometimes appears, and the covered portion is called the mahat-tattva. The Lord then, by his plenary portion as Mahā-Viṣṇu, lies down within the water of the mahat-tattva, and the water is called the Causal Ocean, Kāraṇa-jala. While Mahā-Viṣṇu sleeps within the Causal Ocean, innumerable universes are generated along with his breathing. These universes are floating and they are scattered all over the Causal Ocean. They stay only during the breathing period of Mahā-Viṣṇu. In each and every universal globe, the same Mahā-Viṣṇu enters again as Garbhodakaśāyī Viṣṇu and lies there on the serpentine-like Shesha incarnation. From his navel sprouts a lotus stem, and on the lotus, Brahma, the Lord of the universe, is born. Brahma creates all forms of living beings of different shapes in terms of different desires within the universe. He also creates the sun, moon, and other demigods. Therefore, the chief engineer of the material creation is the Lord himself, as confirmed in the Bhagavad-Gita 9:10. It is he only who directs the material nature to produce all sorts of moving and non-moving creations. There are two modes of material creation: the creation of the collective universes, as stated above, done by the Mahā-Viṣṇu, and the creation of the single universe. Both are done by the Lord, and thus the universal shape, as we can see, takes place. Can somebody please turn off this fan? Thank you. Om Ajnana-timirandasya Ghyananjana-shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Viṣṇu upādāya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Śrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Ghoravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyata Deshatharine. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dhinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangir Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Namo Mahā-Vadanyāya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gaurat Vishwe Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Panchakalpatarubhasya Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So here we are in this portion of the Bhagavatam that deals with the creation, Sarga and Visarga, primary and the secondary creation. So it's mentioned in this shloka, then when all these became assembled. So in order to understand this, we need to know the previous shloka. What are all these? What became assembled? So in the previous verse, we find that these were Panchbhutas, the elements, senses, mind, and modes of material nature. When they are assembled, then the creation can take place. So in the Shrutis, it is mentioned in different Upanishads that only Viṣṇu, the Supreme Lord, he existed before the creation. At that time there was no Brahma, no Shiva, no other demigods, only Viṣṇu, the Lord Mahā-Viṣṇu, who lies on the Causal Ocean. And by his breathing, all the universes, they are generated as the seeds, in a seed-like form. And gradually these universes, they develop into gigantic forms with the innumerable planets, with the sun and the moon, the demigods and all beings in that universe. So these universes, they develop into this gigantic form in the same way as the banyan tree develops from countless banyan seeds, numberless banyan seeds. And in the previous verse also, Prabhupada is giving a comparison that different types of bodies, they are like different motor cars. And for making one motor car, we know that you need many, many parts, and there is assembly line, and there are many workers there who are assembling this part, and in the end we have the final product. So similarly, Lord Brahma, who is creating all these forms, he is like one of these workers, maybe chief worker in a factory who is assembling these forms. But who is the original designer of these bodily forms? It's not Lord Brahma. It's Krishna. It's Lord Viṣṇu. Like in the factory, you have the engineers and designers who first conceive about these forms, and then they have the workers in the factory make the cars. So in this way, we understand that the Lord Brahma, he acts only as the instrument in the Lord's hands to create and to populate the universe. And even that he cannot do very easily. We heard that he is born on the lotus flower that comes out from the Lord Viṣṇu's navel. And then when he's born, it's complete darkness. The universe is completely bleak. Nothing is there. And he doesn't even know who he is. He's confused. Who I am? What I'm doing here? What I'm supposed to do? Can you imagine yourself just waking up somewhere and you have complete amnesia? You don't know anything. You don't know why you are there, what you're supposed to do, who you are. You have no clue. So he tries diving into the stem deep down to discover where this came from, but he's diving deep into the Causal Ocean water, but still he cannot find the cause. So he goes back to the flower, to the lotus flower, and then he hears word tapa, and he understands that now he needs to do some tapasya, to turn inwards in order to find out who he is and what is he supposed to do. So he meditates for 100 years. He performs tapasya. And then, by the Lord's grace, it's revealed from within his heart to him who he is and what is his mission in this life. And also the Lord reveals himself through the heart, through that tapasya, through that austerity. So austerity or tapasya is the standard method of obtaining higher knowledge, higher destination, position, power, opulence, you name it. It's a standard method in the Shastra and in the Vedic culture. So of course, tapasya could be done for many different reasons, with many different motivations. But the best of all tapasya is the tapasya that is aimed towards the self-realization and approaching Krishna as the supreme goal. We have an example of Vasudeva and Devaki in their previous life as Krishna and Sutapa. They did a severe tapasya for 12,000 celestial years. They endured heavy rain, strong sun, scorching heat, severe cold, suffering all sorts of inconveniences because they had such a strong desire to get the Lord as their son. So they practiced pranayama to control the prana within their body. They did yoga. They ate only air and dry leaves. So in this way, they cleansed their mind and their heart from all dirty things. And that's why Lord agreed to appear as their son. So this is the goal of the austerity or tapasya, to cleanse the mind and the heart. Of course, we have also examples of demoniac sort of tapasya that, demons like Hiranyakashipu did in order to obtain the highest position in the universe, to become immortal. And we find that these demons, they have great determination, and they do it. Hiranyakashipu's body was completely eaten by termites, by the AIDS, but still he was so determined. He maintained his life within the bones. But this is not the tapasya we should aspire for. Demons, they can have endurance and determination to do it, and they may get the results, material results, but eventually they are ruined, as we know, as Hiranyakashipu was ruined, and other demons who also underwent severe tapasya. So tapasya that we are interested in, it's called divine tapasya, or tapodivyam, as Lord Rishabhadev, he calls it in the 5th canto when he is teaching his sons. So Lord Rishabhadev, he says, Nayam deho deha bhajyam nriloke. Of all those who have material bodies in the material world, those who have human bodies, they have a special prerogative. They have a special privilege. Kastan kaman arhate vid bhujamye. So they should not work very hard for sense gratification that is available even to those who eat stools like hogs and dogs. They should not work hard because the human life is not meant for that. What is it meant for? So he says, Tabo divyam putra kayena sattvam sudayat. One should perform austerity by which heart is purified. Sattvam sudayat. And then yasmat brahma sokyam tvanantam. And in this way attain unlimited and eternal spiritual happiness. So this is the goal, to purify the heart and the mind and to attain unlimited and eternal spiritual happiness by going back to the spiritual world. And those who do not perform this sort of divine austerities for spiritual realization, they will be forced by the force of material nature to perform austerities for sense gratification, just for sleeping, eating, defending, and mating. We know that people, in material world, they work very hard from 9 to 5 or from 9 to 9, just for little sense gratification. And this is tapasya, but it's completely misdirected and misused tapasya. Working hard just to satisfy the genitals and bellies. This is not human tapasya. That's why Lord Rishabhadev is advising his sons that they should not work hard for material sense gratification. So human life means voluntarily practicing tapasya or accepting suffering for the sake of making advancement in the spiritual life. So everybody in the material world more or less suffers, even animals, even plants. Everybody is suffering due to their previous karma. But if we accept suffering voluntarily in the form of austerities to attain eternal life, then that suffering will be worthwhile. So better to accept some suffering voluntarily instead of to accept suffering that is imposed on us by material nature. We have also an example of Dhruva Maharaj, who did again severe tapasya, and his initial motivation was to obtain the kingdom greater than his father and grandfather. But eventually, through that tapasya, his heart got purified. And he couldn't understand that this is not the real goal of the austerity. He could understand that devotional service is something much, much, much higher. So even in his case, tapasya worked very much, and he became pure, unalloyed devotee. And then even Krishna's eternal associates, they also perform tapasya. We have an example of gopis performing austerities, Katyani Vrata, worshipping goddess Katyani in order to get Krishna as their husband. And this is again praiseworthy because Krishna is the goal. And in the 10th canto, we have ladies in Mathura glorifying these austerities of the gopis So they say in the 44th chapter of the 10th canto, they said, Gopyas tapakim acharan yat amushya rupam. They're asking, what kind of austerities must the gopis have performed to have darshan of Krishna's form? Meaning that one who is having darshan of Krishna's form, it's not attained so cheaply. They must have done something really great, some divine austerities for long time. And then the ladies in Matra, they continue glorifying the Lord and the gopis. They say, Lavanya saram asamurdvam ananya sidam. That Krishna's form is the essence of all loveliness. It's a lavanya saram, and it's not to be equal or surpassed. And then they say, Drigibi pibanti anusavabhinavam durapam. With their eyes, they always drink the nectar of that form that is always new and difficult to attain. Ekantadama yashasa shriya aishvarasya. And that form is the only abode of all fame, beauty, and opulence. In the 6th canto, we have as a method of atonement offered by Shukadeva Goswami to Maharaj Pariksit, brahmacharya as form of austerity. He says, tapasya brahmacharyena. It's a jnana-kanda atonement. Of course, Maharaj Pariksit was very intelligent and he didn't accept it as the final atonement, but it is there in the list of possible atonements. Tapasya of being celibate, being brahmachari. And in that purport, Srila Prabhupada actually defines what tapasya is. So I would like to quote that. Srila Prabhupada says, Tapa is explained in the Smriti Shastra as follows. Manasas chendriyanam cha aikagryam paramam tapa. Complete control of the mind and senses and their complete concentration on one kind of activity is called tapa. Our Krishna consciousness movement is teaching people how to concentrate the mind on devotional service. That is first-class tapa. So, can you remember that this definition? Complete control of the mind and senses and complete concentration of the mind and the senses on one kind of activity. This is called tapa. So what is our tapa? Every morning we are chanting on a japa, and that's called tapa because we are supposed, at least we are supposed to completely concentrate our mind on Krishna's holy name. But if the mind is distracted and we are just chanting with lips and the mind is elsewhere, then it's not really the austerity, it's just doing some ritualistic activity. So to have a darshan of Krishna's beautiful form, as gopis did, so we need to perform austerity. We need to completely absorb our mind on Krishna and his service. Of course, this is easy to say, much more difficult to do. But Lord Brahma, he was successful in doing it. That's why the Lord revealed himself within his heart. And through that revelation, Lord Brahma, he understood who is he and what is his mission. He understood that he is there to, and he is supposed to populate the universe. But still, he didn't have a power to do that. So he is offering prayers to the Lord, prayers for being able to create, prayers for creative ability. And then he gets a reciprocation from the Lord speaks to him, and he instructs him to do what? To do more tapasya, to do more austerities in order to be able to create. Or in order to become an instrument of creation, instrument in the Lord's hands. So one needs empowerment in order to create the universe, and not only to create the universe, but to do even much smaller things. The problem of the conditioned souls in the material world is that they think they are the doers, and we think we can do it. we are capable, we have enough intelligence, enough strength, enough capacity to do whatever we want to do. But that's a mistake coming from the false ego. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, Prakriti kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasha ahankara vimudatma kartakam iti manyate. The spirit soul, bewildered by the influence of the three gunas of the false ego, thinks himself the doer of activities that are in reality carried out by the gunas of material nature. Just by influence of this false ego, we think that we are the doers. But actually, in the conditional life, the activity is carried out by the gunas of material nature. And when somebody is above the gunas, then inspiration and intelligence to act and to create comes from the Lord within, comes from the super soul within his heart. So divine inspiration is required for any sort of creative work. If we look at any famous artist, musician, or painter, Mozart, Beethoven, even famous scientists like Einstein, they all somehow admit that ideas would come to their mind all of a sudden to some inspiration that was not their own. They recognize it's coming from somewhere from above. Inspiration to compose the wonderful, music, or to paint the wonderful painting. They recognize that it's not coming from them. It's coming from above, meaning it's coming from the Lord within this heart. So it's a divine inspiration that we need in order to be able to do anything significant. And for example, Srila Prabhupada coming to the West and spreading the Krishna consciousness movement is definitely was done by divine inspiration of the Lord and by divine empowerment of the Lord. Prabhupada himself, he recognizes, how can I do it? I'm just an old man, more than 70 years old. How can I do something that was not possible for many, many young men? But by divine inspiration of the Lord Krishna and his divine empowerment, Prabhupada did a miracle. So miracles could be done with the help of the Lord. So that's why we should never ever take credit when we do something that is worth. And we should always consider ourselves as instruments. Since even self-realized persons and even the Lord himself, they are completely free from this egoistic notion of being the doer and being the enjoyer. In the Garbhodakaśāyī Upanishad, which is the favorite Upanishad of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas and the crash jewel of all Upanishads because it describes Lord Krishna and the process of worshipping him and his supremacy, there is one nice story that illustrates this point, how Lord and his devotees, they don't consider themselves to be enjoyers. So once upon a time, the Rajagopis, Krishna's eternal associates, they spent night with Krishna, and then in the mornings they asked Krishna, Prabhu, what kind of brahmana should we feed to get the boon of attaining your eternal association? So they were asking Krishna, how can we satisfy some brahmana by feeding him in order to get the blessings to become your eternal lovers? And Krishna here replied to them, by feeding great sage Durvasa, your desire will be fulfilled. And then they took it very seriously. But they knew that Durvasa Muni, he is living across the Yamuna, and Yamuna is very deep. So they asked him, so how will cross the Yamuna to visit the hermitage of Durvasa? Because they were just cowherd girls, and they didn't have any boats at that time. So they were thinking, how shall we cross this river, which is very deep? And Krishna replied, simply chant, Krishna is brahmachari. and the Yamuna will immediately part and give you away. And the gopis said, okay, yes, that sounds good, but they couldn't figure out. Krishna is brahmachari, he just spent the night with us, and now we are supposed to say true statement, and Yamuna will open its waters for us. Well, let's try, since Krishna proposed that. But first they asked Krishna, how can you say that you are brahmachari? You enjoyed so many young ladies. And Krishna tried to explain to them the glories of his holy name. He said, my name is so powerful that simply by remembering my name, one can easily cross insurmountable ocean of birth and death. And sinful man can become purified and demon can attain liberation. Then what to speak about crossing a small river like Yamuna? So in this way, the gopis, they got some faith and some courage. So they came in front of Yamuna and they stated very boldly, chanting, Krishna is brahmachari. And to their great surprise, Yamuna gave them passage. The waters parted and it became only knee-deep. So they could just go and cross it without getting much wet. And with them, they carried the sweet rice to feed the Durvasa Muni who lived across the Yamuna. So they came to him, they offered obeisances, they fed him sweet rice, and Durvasa Muni was very, very satisfied. And then he gave them permission to return back to Vrindavan. But now they were in another dilemma, because the Yamuna, after they passed, the Yamuna came back, and again it was very high. So they asked him, oh dear Rishi, can you tell us how can we go back? Because the Yamuna is very deep. And then he said, just remember me who eats only durva grass, and Yamuna will give you passage. Again, they became very much perplexed. But you just ate a big feast, you ate sweet rice and gulab jamuns and so many other things that we fed you. And now we are supposed to state that you are eating only durva grass? How is that? Can you explain it to us? And then, and also how is that that we were able to cross the Yamuna by stating that Krishna is brahmachari? This all sounds very contradictory. These statements do not sound true, but still the Yamuna is obeying when we pronounce them. And then Durvasa Muni, he gave them a nice sermon establishing Krishna's supreme position. He said that Krishna is the source of all material and spiritual worlds. He's infallible. And to call him a brahmachari is perfectly all right. He's the cause of all the bodies and Krishna is the source of all incarnations. And because he is the supreme, he does not enjoy like ordinary living beings enjoy. He is completely transcendental to all sorts of material enjoyments. And then he can enjoy with you apparently, but at the same time stay brahmachari. Similarly, the self-realized soul who knows that he is not the body, who knows that he is a pure spirit soul, although he might eat, he knows that he is not enjoyer. He knows only that the body is eating and that the soul is completely above it. So in this sense, he explained to them that both statements were perfectly true, because both Krishna and him were on a transcendental platform, on a transcendental level, where they did not consider themselves as the enjoyer and the doer. And in this way, the gopis pronounced Durvasa Muni, it's only grass, and they managed to return back. So that Gopal Tapani Upanishad, this was in the second part, but in the first part of Gopal Tapani Upanishad, 4 Kumaras, they approached Lord Brahma and they asked him some questions. first they ask him, who is the greatest of all? And then Lord Brahma, he replies to them, the Lord Krishna is the Supreme Brahman. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the one who has body, Satchidananda body. And they also ask him, who is that personified afraid of? And then Lord Brahma explains to them, personified that is afraid of Lord Govinda. And then they ask, who is that person by knowing whom there is nothing left to be known? And he tells them, simply by knowing Gopi Jana Vallabha, the Lord of the gopis, everything is known. And then they further ask many, many questions. What is his form? How does one attain him? How does one worship him? And in the process of that discussion, Lord Brahma explains to them 18-syllable Krishna mantra or Gopal mantra. This is the mantra that is preceded with the Kama Bija Klim. And this is the mantra that Lord Brahma chanted during the creation in order to create all living forms within the universe. So that Kama Bija and Gopal mantra, they facilitated Brahma's affair of creation, because all the elements of creation, they are in the subtle form present in the syllables of Kama Bija and Gopal mantra. So they actually, it's said that there are two famous mantras. One is two famous Krishna mantras. One is the Maha mantra that we all know. Another one is this Gopal mantra, 18-syllable Gopal mantra. So all the elements of the creation are present in the syllables of the Gopal mantra. And because everything is present in the syllables of the mantra can be used in two ways. It can be used to achieve any material aspiration or goal, including creation of the universe. But of course, it can be used for spiritual purpose, for attaining the lotus feet of the Lord Krishna. So this twofold power is explained in the Brahma Samhita by Srila Bhakti Saraswati Thakur. I'll just comment. One aspect is that he's speaking about the klim, the Kama Bija that precedes the Gopal mantra. One aspect of it is that it tends to make the pure soul run after the all-attractive Sri Krishna, Lord of Gokula and of divine Jiva. When the devotee is free from all sorts of mundane desires and is willing to serve the Lord, he attains the fruition of his desire, Lord Shri Krishna. But in the case of a devotee who is not of unmixed motive, this super excellent mantra fulfills his heart desire also. The transcendental Kama Bij is inherent in the divine logos located in Goloka, and the Kama Bij, pervertly reflected in worldly affairs, satisfies all sorts of desires of this mundane world. So in other words, whether we chant Gopal mantra or we chant Maha mantra, it is very important to notice what our heart desires and aspirations are. Because if we have heart full of material desires and we chant Krishna mantra, that mantra will fulfill these material desires. But it will take us away from Krishna. So it's very, very important to desire only Krishna and his service while chanting Krishna mantra. Because the mantra has the power to fulfill these desires. And in Lord Brahma's grace, it served him very well, to populate the universe, to construct the universe. And in one sense, his mundane affair of creating the universe is not separated from the service of the Lord Krishna, because it was the service given to him by the Lord. So he dovetailed his material propensity in the service of the Lord by using the mantra, Krishna mantra, by using the Lord's power. So there is also one, and he's also teaching Kumaras one shloka. When they ask him what is bhakti, they ask him what is devotion. He says, Bhaktir asya bhajanam. Devotion is worship of Krishna. And such worship consists of absorbing all mental faculties in him without desiring anything in this life, in the next. And this worship is the liberation of freedom from all bondage. It resembles to Rupa Goswami's definition of pure bhakti from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So Garbhodakaśāyī Upanishad is very, very wonderful Upanishad. If you haven't read it, I would recommend to everybody. But the point I wanted to make that our desires are what we are supposed to watch for, because these desires combined with our spiritual sadhana or practice will bring us to certain destinations. So if the desires are not pure, if desires are material, our spiritual practice will yield material results. There is a scripture called Karma-dipika, and there the material application of this Gopal mantra is mentioned. For example, somebody who is in the need of food, it's recommended to chant the Gopal mantra and meditate on a Gopal Krishna carrying curd on his head. And then there are many instances like this. For the one who is sick, there is another mantra dhyan, another different sort of meditation by using the Gopal mantra. For one who is in a danger, for example, he's supposed to chant the Gopal mantra and meditate on Krishna killing Putana. So different meditations accompanied chanting of the mantra for different sort of goals. But these are all material goals, but the mantra works nevertheless, even for the material purposes. But we want to use it for spiritual purpose, for attaining pure love for Krishna. This is our aspiration. But we should be free from material desires. Anyway, I'll stop here if you have any comments or questions. Yes, Viragolo Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
Thank you for a very nice class.
Thank you.
Prabhuji, for me, I am trying to reconcile that, because on the subject matter of the chanting the mantras and the consciousness and fulfilling of material desires, etc. You see, my understanding is that we are going through a process of devotional service, and we are at various levels of, I would say, in my case, anartha nivritti. And Krishna knows what stage I'm at. Now, the Shastra also explains that for a person who is trying sincerely but is incapable, Krishna will fulfill whatever allows him to progress further in spiritual life, but does not fulfill the material desires. How do we reconcile? Thank you.
Yeah, this sounds like a contradiction. But Krishna is within the heart of all of us. So he knows who sincerely wants him, but still has some material desires that are secondary. They're not his main inspiration in life. He knows that that person, he just wants to attain him, to serve him, to love him, but still has some material desires that are distracting him. For such a person who is sincere, Krishna takes away material opulence and all obstacles on his part in order to facilitate that devotee attaining him. But there are again those devotees who have a strong desire to be happy in this world and who see the process of devotional service as the mean for that, who see, oh, this will facilitate, my goal. For them, Krishna lets them let the process devotional service work in such a way to fulfill their material desires. There is an example of a Brahmana in Chaitanya Charitamrita when Gopal Goswami was traveling from South India to Puri to meet Lord Chaitanya. There was, I think his name was Ram Das Vishwas. He accompanied Gopal Goswami, and because he was from a lower caste, he was serving Gopal Bhatta, who was a Brahmana. He was serving him very sincerely, carrying his luggage. But interesting thing with this Ram Das Vishwas, he was constantly chanting the name of Lord Ram. Constantly. And one would assume that he was an advanced devotee of Lord Ramachandra. But what happened when they came to Puri? Lord Chaitanya embraced Gopal Bhatta Goswami and gave him utmost attention and love. But he completely ignored this Ram Das Vishwas. Although externally he appeared as a devotee, he was a dressed devotee, he was constantly chanting the holy name of the Lord. What more you can wish? But no, Lord knew his heart. He knew that Ram Das Vishwas in his heart, he was impersonalist. And he wanted to merge into the Lord. And that's why Lord Chaitanya, he just ignored him. So, Lord, as a super soul in the heart, can detect what is our main inspiration. He knows that we might have some other side desires, but they are not our main aspiration. Circumstantially, we might want these things because we need them to live and survive in this world. When Gajendra was fighting the crocodile and he offered his prayers to the Lord, he was praying to be delivered from material danger, but he apologized to the Lord, saying that I'm praying for something material, but because I have no choice, if I die now, my devotional service will be stopped and checked. So acharyas, they explain that it's not contrary to the devotional service to praise for example, when you're in the danger to be saved. Of course, if you're on such a level as Prahlad Maharaj, you will not even pray for such things. But one who is dependent on so many material conditions that can disturb his devotional service, for him it's okay to desire and pray for such conditions which will be favorable for his devotional service, where his devotional service can go smoothly without hindrance. Because these desires are not primary goal of his life. They are not his main aspiration. They are just side desires that are meant to help him to eventually attain pure devotional service. So in that sense, there is no contradiction. Was it clear? If anybody else has anything else, although it's already 9 o'clock. Okay, just a short. Patitabhavan Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. It's not so easy to understand how the prayers we make for material things which would help in our devotional service. Isn't it a better choice to leave it to Krishna to actually make such arrangements which will be the best situation for the devotee to advance in spiritual life?
Yeah, that would be the best if we would be on that level of detachment and we are completely, open. Whatever Krishna chooses, I'll accept it. But if we are conditioned, if we are attached, and if we see we cannot properly function in this situation, and we see that it's not favorable for our devotional service, then what is the harm of asking the Lord, please make my situation favorable that I can serve you better? It's much better to approach Krishna than to try to change situation yourself or to approach some other powerful person in this world or a demigod to change your situation. People go, and to astrologers, and then they do some yagyas for demigods, this, that, so many things. They try to change their karma by not approaching Krishna, by approaching devatas, try to manipulate their karma. No, if you really need to do it, better approach Krishna directly, if you need. But of course, it's best if you just leave it up to Krishna and not try to interfere at all and accept everything as Krishna's mercy. But for those who cannot do it, who are not on that level, it's better to approach Krishna. Is that okay? Okay, we'll stop here. Thank you all very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.